Have you ever stared into a campfire and thought you knew exactly what you were looking at? You probably believe you're just watching a piece of wood slowly turning into ash. But what if I told you that your basic common sense is completely backwards? What if I proved to you that the heavy log burning in front of you didn't grow from the ground at all, but literally materialized out of thin air? And that every single flame you see dancing in the dark is actually a trapped piece of an ancient star escaping back into the universe? Today we are going to completely dismantle everything you thought you knew about fire, nature, and your own body. By the end of this video, you will never look at a matchstick, a forest, or even your next meal the exact same way again. Think about a block of dry wood sitting in your backyard. It is completely surrounded by an ocean of oxygen. They are in direct contact, yet nothing happens. They just sit there, ignoring each other, for years, for decades. But down at the atomic level, a silent, desperate tension exists. Carbon atoms inside that wood and the oxygen atoms floating in the air have a profound, almost fatal attraction to one another. They want to connect. They desperately want to snap together. In the language of physics, joining together represents a significantly lower energy state. And the universe is fundamentally lazy. Everything always wants to reach the lowest possible energy state. So if carbon and oxygen want to join together so badly, and doing so satisfies the laws of thermodynamics, why isn't the log bursting into flames right now? Wait a minute, look around you. Your house has wood, your clothes have carbon, the air is full of oxygen. If they want to snap together, why isn't the entire world on fire at this exact second? The reason the world isn't burning is because nature built a fortress, an invisible wall. Every atom has a nucleus in the middle and a cloud of negatively charged electrons on the outside. When an oxygen atom drifts close to a carbon atom, their outer electron clouds touch first. And what do negative charges do when they meet? They repel violently. This is the barrier, the quantum wall. It's an electromagnetic force field preventing them from getting close enough to actually bond. They bounce off each other over and over, millions of times a second. To break that wall, you need violence. You need speed. You need a trigger. When you strike a match, you are applying intense, localized friction. That friction forces the atoms to vibrate frantically. You are giving them a massive speed boost. Suddenly, a few oxygen atoms are moving fast enough to smash right through that electromagnetic shield of the carbon atom. They collide. They snap together. And when they finally unite, they release a tremendous shock wave of energy. That released energy violently shakes the atoms next to them, giving them the speed to smash through their own barriers. 2 atoms react, causing 4 to react, causing 8 to react. It is an unstoppable, catastrophic chain reaction. Fire is not a substance. Fire is not a fluid. Fire is the visual evidence of billions of atoms violently crashing into each other, ripping themselves apart and forming new bonds. The heat you feel is literally the frantic vibration of those atoms. But to truly understand this, we have to go backward. If fire is carbon and oxygen snapping together, how did they get separated in the first place? Where did the heavy carbon in that block of wood even come from? Think back to your elementary school science class. You were likely taught that plants grow from the dirt. You plant a seed, it eats the nutrients in the soil, and it builds a massive, towering tree. Wrong. Completely, totally wrong. Think about it. If a giant oak tree weighing 10 tons actually ate the soil to grow, wouldn't there be a massive 10-ton crater in the ground beneath every tree? Have you ever seen a crater under a tree? No. The ground stays perfectly flat. So where does the mass come from? It comes from thin air, literally. Trees breathe in invisible carbon dioxide gas. Inside their leaves, they strip the carbon away from the oxygen. They use that invisible carbon to build their heavy trunks, their branches, their bark. The wood you hold in your hands is quite literally solidified air. The only thing the tree takes from the dirt is a tiny fraction of minerals and water. When you burn a log, that tiny pile of leftover ash, that was the dirt. Everything else was constructed from the sky. But pulling carbon and oxygen apart is incredibly difficult. Remember, they want to be together. They are tightly bound in carbon dioxide. Ripping them apart requires a massive, brutal amount of force. A tree doesn't have muscles. It doesn't have a power plant. So where does it get the sheer force required to tear these atoms apart? Look up. It uses the sun. A tree is essentially a giant biological satellite dish. It captures solar radiation photons traveling 93 million miles through the freezing vacuum of space. The leaf uses the pure kinetic energy of that starlight as a crowbar to forcibly pry the carbon and oxygen apart. Once separated, the tree spits the oxygen back out into the air as toxic waste. But the carbon? The tree locks the carbon inside its trunk. Here is the profound truth. A tree is just a living battery. It is storing pure cosmic radiation within its physical structure. The energy of the sun is trapped inside the wood, held in place by holding those atoms apart. Now bring all of this together. You chop down the tree, you dry the wood, you place it in your fireplace and strike that match. You provide the heat to break the quantum wall. The carbon and oxygen finally desperately snap back together. And as they do, they must release the energy that was holding them apart. What is that energy? It is the exact same energy that separated them in the first place. The light hitting your face from the fireplace is not just a chemical glow. It is ancient starlight. It is sunlight that fell on a leaf 10, 20, or 50 years ago. It was captured, locked in a biological vault, and you just unlocked it. When you watch a piece of wood burn, you are watching the sun shining in reverse. Fire is recycled stellar energy. It is trapped cosmic radiation escaping back into the universe. If this blows your mind, look down at your own hands, because the exact same catastrophic chain reaction is happening inside your chest right now. You eat food, vegetables, plants, or animals that ate plants. What are you eating? You are eating solidified carbon that was built using sunlight. You are literally consuming stored starlight. Then you take a deep breath. You inhale oxygen, the exact same oxygen the tree discarded. Inside your cells, you smash that oxygen into the carbon from your food. You snap them together. This process releases the trapped solar energy, which gives you the power to walk, think, and live. And then you exhale the byproduct, carbon dioxide. You are doing the exact same thing as the campfire. The only difference is that your body controls the reaction. Instead of a violent explosion of flames, your body breaks the barrier slowly, step by step, using enzymes. You are a fire, a slow-burning, walking, talking fire, powered entirely by a star 93 million miles away. We have dismantled the illusion. Fire isn't a glowing substance. It is a violent reunion of atoms. Wood isn't from the earth. It is woven from the sky. And the heat from a burning log is just ancient sunlight finally finding its way back home. Everything runs on this cycle of trapped and released stellar energy. But this leaves us with an incredibly uncomfortable question. If all the fire on Earth is simply the release of captured sunlight, what exactly is fueling the sun? There is no oxygen in space. There is no carbon to burn. So how is that terrifyingly massive sphere of plasma producing the energy to keep the entire solar system alive? That is a completely different, far more violent story. And it's one that will shatter your understanding of reality even further. But I've got to stop somewhere. I will leave you with that to imagine.